Okay, guys. Hi. So,
Hello.
my name is Isabel Bautista, and I will be talking about the power of sleep on the brain. So, you guys can all see the first slide, right? Awesome. Okay. So, have you ever stayed up super late trying to finish homework or studying, and then the next day you couldn't even remember what you learned? Yeah, me too. Most of us don't get enough sleep, especially when we're busy, stressed, or trying to catch up on assignments. But what if I told you that sleep affects you way more than just how tired you may feel? It actually impacts your memory, your emotions, and even the choices that you all make. So, one of my sources, actually, the National Sleep Foundation, found that teenagers and college students are among the most sleep deprived groups in the country. And the lack of rest has serious consequences for our mental and emotional health. After reading sources from the Harvard Medical School and National Institute of Health, as well as a peer-reviewed psychology journal found in the library at UF, and I will mention that when I get to the part. I realized how powerful sleep really is and how it's one of the most important tools for a healthy brain. I'm going to explain how sleep strengthens your memory, stabilizes your emotions, and also influences your decision making. So, to my first point, sleep strengthens memory and learning. When you sleep, your brain isn't just shutting down, it's actually filing away memories and things that you've learned throughout the day. One of my sources, Harvard Medical School, explains that during sleep, your brain transfers information from short-term memory to long-term storage, and it makes it easier to remember in longer terms. The National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute also says that during deep sleep, the brain connects new information from what we already know, which is basically going to be applied later on for our problem solving in life. So it takes things that you know in deep sleep and it stores it to a point where you can also use it to solve problems later on in life or use it for when you have a test or an exam, for example. So when you pull an all-nighter, your hippocampus, that's the part of your brain that's responsible for memory, it doesn't function as well. Dr. Matthew Walker, a sleep scientist and the author of a book called Why We Sleep, says that skipping sleep can reduce your ability to recall information by up to 40%. So, sleep helps your brain remember, but it also plays a huge role in how we feel. Bringing me on to my next point. Sleep stabilizes emotions and mood. When we're tired, it's not just our eyes that are heavy, but our emotions are too. The National Sleep Foundation also found that people who don't get enough sleep experience stronger emotional reactions and have more trouble calming down after stress. This happens because a part of our brain called the amygdala. A study from UC Berkeley found that when people are sleep deprived, the amygdala becomes 60% more reactive than usual, making small issues feel like the biggest problems in the world. And honestly, we've all been there. When I'm running on 3 hours of sleep, I cry over spilled milk or snap at my family members for no reason. Yeah, but it's funny to know now that it's not just me being dramatic, but it's also scientifically proven. Um, Good sleep helps our emotional as brain just feel well, good sleep just helps our emotional capability overall. Sleep not only impacts our emotional state, but it affects the choices that we make and our decision making. Which brings me to my next point. Sleep impacts decision making and behavior. Lack of sleep doesn't just make us forgetful or moody, but it can also make us act out of character. A study published in the Journal of Applied Psychology, which I found in the UF library, that's the one, found that people who don't sleep enough are more likely to cheat, lie, and take shortcuts in life because their self-control drops. That's because sleep deprivation slows down the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logic and decision making. So when we're tired, we're impulsive and less thoughtful. Another growing issue is what experts call the revenge bedtime procrastination. And this is when people delay going to bed to reclaim their own personal time. For example, They will go on TikTok and doom scroll on TikTok, or they'll watch one more episode of Netflix, or they'll play a video game before they know it's time to go to sleep. But this habit leads to even less sleep and worse decision making the next day. So, in a way, losing sleep doesn't just affect our brain, but it affects our behavior, our emotions, and it can even affect our relationships. And in conclusion, sleep helps with memory, emotion, decision making in your brain. And sleep is just way more powerful than what you may realize. It helps us remember what we learn, manage how we feel, and make better choices overall. Without enough of it, we forget things, lose control of our emotions, and sometimes we'll act in ways we could even regret. I used to think that sleeping more than 6 hours a day was considered lazy, but now I know it's actually one of the smartest things you can do for yourself. Because when you have good sleep time, you'll have a good mind for the rest of the day to come. Thank you. And now it is time for our Q&A. Okay, who's the first? Who's first? Ask question.
I'll go.
Okay.
What are some tips for improving sleep quality?
I'd say a good tip would be to turn off your devices, and make sure that you're not seeing like bright lights like right before you sleep. I think that avoiding harsh light, turning off your devices an hour prior to sleep is a really good start. And also even just like maybe doing a little bit of light exercise beforehand or even reading. Getting some education before you sleep and just helping that lock into your long-term memory is a good tip for that as well. Next question.
I'll go. So I love coffee and drinking caffeine. How does caffeine affect my sleep?
That's a great question. I also love coffee. Caffeine actually blocks it's called adenosine, and basically it's a neurotransmitter that promotes sleep, or it promotes sleepiness. So because it blocks that certain neurotransmitter, this delays sleep, and it can also like it interrupts the duration of sleep that you may have. So I would avoid taking caffeine after like the afternoon time, just because that's like the best way to get your full sleep in right when you're sleepy.
Thank you.
Next.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, so I was wondering, I heard that some people need less sleep than other people. Is there like any reason for that? Some people just operate on 6 hours perfectly fine. I don't get that.
So why people need more hours of sleep?
Yeah, like why does it vary person to person?
So it just honestly, adults require less sleep than adolescents and children. Adults require at least 7 to 9, but like teenagers and children should have at least 10 hours of sleep a day. So that's why it varies in regards to that. And honestly, like sometimes also people could have like diseases or genetic disorders that they may need to sleep longer so they can also like, function properly with those disorders and genetics. So yeah, but definitely like as you're growing and your frontal lobe is developing, it doesn't stop developing till you're 25, you should get a good sleep before it's like fully developed. At least 7 hours. Okay. Any more questions? Thank you guys so much, and I hope you learned so much, and I hope that you guys understand how important sleep is to you now. Have a great one.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.